household a $1,500 check if she defeats Governor Abbott this November. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Charlie Mechling. Thousands of pregnant Texans are driving hours for prenatal care as rural maternity services disappear. We'll have a look at the growing crisis and what's behind it.
Plus, a new Houston art residency is turning family stories of immigration into a living community archive. We'll explore how photography can preserve culture and invite everyone to become part of the story.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870.
Hello, Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Both the U.S. and Iran are signaling the planned talks with Iran for a permanent end to war are off. Those talks were supposed to resume after Iran buries its former supreme leader later today, but NPR's Emily Fang reports Iran and the U.S. are accusing each other of violating the truce.
President Trump has said he does not care if negotiators resume talks. Iran, meanwhile, lodged a complaint with the United Nations this week after a first round of U.S. strikes on Iran on Tuesday night. The Iranian government accused the U.S. of, quote, a blatant violation of the Charter of the United Nations and its international obligations. And as the U.S. struck Iran for a second night in a row on Wednesday, Iran's Mohsen Rezai, a former military commander and advisor to the Supreme Leader's office, referenced a line from the Quran in a post on X about reciprocal punishment, which ends, quote, the transgressing enemy and his accomplices will be punished. Emily Fang, NPR News.
After days of intense pressure from Maine and national Democratic leaders, Graham Plattner has ended his Senate campaign. Here's Maine Public's Kevin Miller.
Plattner continues to deny recent accusations that he raped a former romantic partner 5 years ago. But during an emotional video filmed outside, he accused Washington interests of using the allegations to neutralize his populist, anti-establishment campaign.
We believe that for the movement to continue, it can't be made.
The Marine Corps veteran and oysterman handily won Maine's Democratic primary last month. The state party will now select a new nominee to take on Republican Senator Susan Collins in a race that could decide control of the Senate. For NPR News, I'm Kevin Miller.
Financial advisors are weighing in on a new investment option for minors across the U.S. The Trump accounts launched over the weekend. NPR's Stephen Basaha has more.
Whether parents should invest their own money depends on if they've already taken advantage of what could be better options. Carrie Joy Grimes is the CEO of the personal finance company Work Money, and she said one of those options is first maxing out contributions for your own retirement.
Because what happens is we put money into our kids' stuff, and then we end up needing help in retirement. And that is a way worse financial stress on our kids.
But if you have a baby born between 2025 and the end of 2028, financial advisors say it's a simple decision. Sign up. Those kids are eligible for a $1,000 contribution from the federal government. Stephen Basaha, NPR News.
Bonnie Tyler, the Grammy-nominated singer, perhaps best known for the hit Total Eclipse of the Heart, has died. Her family said on social media that she was hospitalized in Portugal. She was 75 years old. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Houston's East End is reeling 2 days after an ICE officer fatally shot an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who's lived in the country for more than 30 years. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was shot and killed Tuesday morning during what ICE claims was a targeted enforcement operation. The agency says the shooting was done in self-defense. However, that claim is heavily disputed by the family and immigrant rights groups. Councilman Joaquin Martinez represents the part of East Houston where the shooting occurred. He told Houston Matters that people are frustrated.
There's definitely a huge sense of fear, frustration, anger. It's a mix of emotions that, ultimately it brings a heightened stress in our community.
Martinez says that he sent a letter to Police Chief Noe Diaz this morning asking for the Homicide Division of the Houston Police Department to support the Harris County District Attorney in investigating the shooting. However, Mayor John Whitmire earlier this morning re-emphasized that an investigation was not going to happen. Gonzalez and other council members also sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security requesting that HPD and other local entities have access to resources that will help them independently investigate. Meanwhile, State Senator Carol Alvarado told Houston Matters that her office led an effort to send a letter to the Texas Department of Public Safety asking them to investigate what happened.
And there's precedence for this. It's been done in the past. So we hope that they will concur and immediately start an investigation.
As of right now, the FBI is the only authority conducting an investigation. We will continue to keep you updated as this story develops here on News 88.7. The Houston Health Department has confirmed 16 cases of cyclospora. That is a serious illness caused by consuming produce or water tainted with a parasite. Harris County Public Health had previously reported 18 cases. Hundreds have been reported nationwide. And forecasters at Colorado State University have lowered the prediction for tropical activity this year. They now expect 9 named tropical storms and maybe 4 hurricanes. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Bank of America, sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, dedicated to offering solutions to help businesses win locally and globally. More at bankofamerica.com/gamechangers.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston. Ernie Manouse with you on this Thursday. This week has moved very slow for me. But you know who I want to know if it moves slow for them too? My guest host who's sitting in the guest chair today. It's Charlie Mechling. You may know him from Straight No Chaser or just from around the community or having sung, been in Forever Plaid, a whole bunch of shows. We're thrilled to have you here. Hello, Charlie.
Thank you for having me. I can't say that any week with 2 children goes slowly.
Oh,
It flies by.
Well, we were talking about that earlier, and you were telling me the age of your kids, and they are
11 and 15, 2 boys.
And we realized I've known you since before you had any children.
Yeah,
and
in this very building.
Downstairs on the first floor, Straight No Chaser had a number of PBS specials, and they've toured a lot, and you were, in a day, you were right up there in the front of it all.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. It's forever ago.
Yeah.
15
but life
years.
goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get to be here in Houston more. That's what's important.
True. You made Houston your home. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Indiana originally. Okay. I met my wife in New York. We were performing, and she's from here. So when we didn't want to...
Yeah, you're going to say her name?
Julia Crone.
There you go. Give her the credit.
Houston Crones.
Of the theater royalty family here in town. She's done so much great work on the stage. But I don't mean to steal your spotlight.
Oh, no, she's my better half. It's okay.
She is, yeah. And so you folks, and of course, because her family's from Houston, has made Houston home. And you guys are here.
I wanted to be someplace where I didn't have to shovel snow.
And then you found out every so often we get a little snow, just to remind you why you're here.
And my boys are like, what is this? What is this freezing stuff?
Yeah. Do you ever get back out east or north?
No, we usually go up. We usually spend a little bit of the summer in Indiana to get away from the heat here, and the boys run around in the woods for a couple weeks.
For folks who love and have loved you, especially with Straight No Chaser, is there any music in your world today? Doing anything in that arena?
I am not, but I always am listening to new music. I've always got music playing. I love music. The boys are now getting into music. My youngest one is learning ukulele right now. So he sings and plays ukulele. It's so cute.
Yeah. And the ukulele's not so bad. My brother took up drums when we were kids, and that was because he wasn't great at it, but he was loud at it, and he practiced a lot.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, we've discouraged that.
Well, we have got a very busy show with a lot going on as we sit here and enjoy each other's company. We have to note there is a huge part of our community that is grieving right now about what happened with the ICE shooting. I guess it's 2 days ago now. Sean Teare will be here. He's the Harris County District Attorney in a little bit. He'll be talking about that and also gun violence in our community and his efforts to work on that issue that faces us. We are also going to take a look at maternal health care. And you think of all health care, that would probably be the most common because every family needs it at some point if they are building a family. And it turns out that in our area and a lot of Texas that there is an absence of that care. And we're going to talk about what the problem is, what possible solutions are, why this is a problem. That's coming up in just a little bit on the show. And also we're going to take a look at saving our memories through photography and how we can build a living archive and a wonderful new exhibit that's come out. On top of all of that, it is Current Obsessions Day. So that means we want to know, what are you obsessed with? What's taking up all of your free time? Is it a book you're reading? Is it a show you're watching? Is it grieving a pop star who may have left us today, Bonnie Tyler? I'll tell you more about that when we get to obsessions, but I promised I would not over-obsess about that on today's show, so I'm not going to. But we want you to share your obsessions with us. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email them to us at talk@hellohouston.org. We'll compile them throughout the show and then share them at the end of the show. So start sharing them with us now. All of that said, it's time to get into the news. And Charlie, I'm going to make you our newsman today. Bring us in. What's the first story you have?
State Representative Gina Hinojosa, the Democratic nominee for governor, is promising to send each Texas household a $1,500 check drawn from the state's rainy day fund if she defeats Governor Greg Abbott this November. The $1,500 one-time rebate program, which Hinojosa dubbed a corruption tax refund, would cost the state $17 billion, her campaign estimated. It would be drawn from Texas's Rainy Day Fund, which is formerly known as the Economic Stabilization Fund and serves essentially as a state savings account, which stood at a record $24.8 billion as of November 2025. Hinojosa's rebate proposal, which would require legislative approval, would draw down roughly two-thirds of the current account and leave around $10 billion in reserves. Her campaign pointed to estimates by the Comptroller's office that the fund would grow by roughly $2.5 billion to $3 billion a year, and historical trends that keep the account at around $10 billion for several years before swelling after 2022. What are your thoughts on Hinojosa's proposal? Call or text 713-440-8870.
First of all, I want to know what their investments are, that it grows at that rate of percentage, because I know my money's in a savings account and I think I get like 3 pennies a year, it feels like. And they're doing a lot better than I am if it grows by 2.5 to 3 billion a year.
You didn't get a big boost in 2022?
No, I did not get that big boost either. I can't help but wonder, well, not even wonder, I can't help but say, there's way too much of this pay for play that I see going around. We heard about Trump sending out checks. It's almost as though you vote for me, I'll send you some money. I don't like that feeling.
And how's that going to feel on the back end? Where's that money going to come from? What else could we be spending that money on?
Right. If our state is fully funded and everything is working perfectly and we have a surplus of money, I guess bring it on. But if in fact we live in a state where we're still having trouble with economics and education and food insecurity in our communities, it seems a bit rich, no pun intended, that we can send $17 billion out in the mail to people.
Yeah, I mean, especially like you said, education.
Yeah.
I mean, we could always have more money in education.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather $1,500 for me goes towards my kids' school.
Yeah. Well, and I guess and when Trump had proposed the sending the checks out to people, I was opposed to that too. I thought there's need for that money in the federal government. And I feel the same way about a Democrat doing it. It doesn't matter to me which party it is. I just don't think it's the best use of funds. Now, I'm sure there are people in our community that would say it's our money. We put it in there. It comes out of taxpayers' money. It has grown. We should get the dividend on it. You think about other states that have resources, even other countries that have natural resources, and the community benefits from the profits there. But that's not what this rainy day fund is. I mean, I would be fine if all oil companies, because the ground that drill here in Texas, are making profits off what's on our ground. Then okay, give us part of those profits.
Yeah.
That seems more fair and equitable. But I
It's
don't know.
probably more than $17 billion.
Yeah, and it's probably a good chunk of money. So let's move for that instead of pay. And also, I don't like the appearance. You vote for me, I'll pay you.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I know we made a whole big stink when Elon Musk was also having drawings for checks for registered voters, and you could get money for that. I just think it gets kind of ugly. And I think if we're critical of it on one side, we got to be critical of it on the other side. What are your thoughts? Let us know. Share with us 713-440-8870. If in fact you did get that check of about $1,500, how would you use it? Where do you think it should go? We'd be interested in knowing what you think. Once again, 713-440-8870. We have another story I want to share with you talking about ways to make money. There's a lot of these prediction markets. Have you played in any of those?
I have not. I'm not a gambler.
I'm not either.
I'm not.
I was with a friend once in Vegas, and our theory was we'd be more successful if we just flushed our money down the toilet in the hotel room. We'd have a better return on our investment than playing the machines. Anyway, prediction markets are drawing new scrutiny in Texas as the state's largest physician group warns they may be fueling gambling addiction among young people. While sports betting remains illegal in Texas, platforms like Kalshi and Polymarket let users wager on the outcome of everything from soccer matches and elections to what's going on the music charts. The Texas Medical Association is urging lawmakers to require users to be at least 21 years old, restrict advertising near schools and parks, ban promotions featuring celebrities or cartoon characters, and require clear warnings about the risk of gambling addiction. The group hopes lawmakers will take up this issue when they return in January. What are your thoughts? Should these restrictions be enacted? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Neither of us being gamblers. Curious your thoughts on all this. Having children, though.
Yeah, well, that's my concern because I see in here, schools and parks and whatnot. But it's really what I see it on is on social media, on TikTok. It's every other ad is Kalshi. I mean, it's so, and that's how do you stop that? Where do you how do you get in the way of that? Because that's more prevalent than an advertisement near a school, I think.
Yeah,
personally,
my problem with the whole thing is prediction markets to begin with. CNN in the mornings does a Kalshi markets thing, and they look at what's being predicted and all that, and reporting it as though it is the news. And it's kind of bothersome to me. It is the fact that these are people's opinion of what's happening. Though we've had folks on the show that have said that the mass community belief in something brings it to happen because of the way the communities function, and that these prediction markets actually can indicate what is happening and are a good feed on what's happening in the world. I just have a little trouble with it. When you bring it down to children, it's a little concerning to me. And when you advertise with cartoon characters stuff, you're not trying to appeal to adults. You know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as, the Joe Camel and,
Right. If you're old enough to remember that whole Joe Camel thing was cigarettes had this great cartoon character and kids loved him, but what was it really saying?
Yeah, we know who it's aimed at.
Right. But then again, the other side of it, should we be regulating the freedom of the environment to do what it needs to do to keep the businesses afloat? Is that for us to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I just I don't like the betting on everything. I think it feeds into kind of a base, like how can we hook somebody who's already kind of hooked on even more?
Yeah.
It's not just sports.
Sean Radigan writes in, sports betting is the saddest addiction. With the other stuff, at least you get to party. The belief that you go to Vegas, there's a lot going on if you're gambling that way, but the sports betting, he says, is the saddest one. My British computer guy, good friend of the show, says, I've been playing the prediction markets for the World Cup, been doing quite well so far.
Oh, that's a sticky subject. I mean, I guess if you just bet on the biggest teams, it seems like the refs are helping you out from what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, though. Sean, my British computer guy, I'm guessing both of you are over 21. I know for a fact you are. Okay, let's go to our phone, see what we've got calling in. 713-440-8870. We have Eli on the phone. Eli, what's on your mind today?
I just had a question about your opinions on Oliver Tree's death.
Oh, Oliver Tree. I think I recognize this voice here.
Who might Eli be?
Is this Eli Mechling, my son?
Yes.
This is the one who's learning ukulele, and he's big into music. And Oliver Tree, it was a tragic accident. Not what we're talking about right now, though, Eli. I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, I also had a question about Kalashi.
Kalshi? Yeah. Do you see
Kalshi,
those ads when you're on YouTube and whatnot?
Yes. Whenever I'm on YouTube, just trying to play a chill, no Wi-Fi game. It's just insane how many ads I've seen on that.
And how old are you?
I am 11.
So
Wow.
This is the exact target.
Eli, is it tempting to you though? Do you want to go play those markets, or do you think, that's for old people?
I mean, sometimes I wonder how successful somebody could be if they just make a few random guesses on those bets or whatever.
Yeah.
That's exactly why there should be some sort of regulation on this. And again, have you seen those signs outside of social media, YouTube? Have you seen them in the community?
Yes. Just.
Oh, wow.
If you think of anything that has ads, you'll definitely see Kalashi or Kalshi.
Yeah. But that's online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you're online.
Eli, thank you for calling and sharing with us. I think you are the first time we have ever had a child of a co-host call in to share their opinion on the conversation. But I'm sure it will lead to a nice conversation at home this evening over dinner. Eli, thank you for calling. If you want to share your opinions, your thoughts, or if you're a child of Charlie's, you can call us at 713-440-8870. I hope I don't get a call from someone claiming to be one of my children, because then I'll be really worried what's going on out there in the world. He does bring up a good point, though, and I think the exact same way he does is that it's like, I wonder how I would do with it. They make it seem real attractive and fun, but you got to realize that you can get hooked into it.
I mean, that's gambling in general. They make it fun.
We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a lot more show for you. We're going to talk with Sandy West of Public Health Watch on maternal health care in both the state of Texas and across the nation. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Houston Public Media is 85% of the way to our Resiliency Fund goal. Now $650,000 remain. Your gift helps us stay ready for what comes next. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. A lot of people use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto to access maps and music. Now car makers are moving towards their own software.
That means you might have to learn how to use an entirely new type of software just to operate some things in your car.
And it comes with a monthly fee. That's next time on Here and Now.
You can hear that today. It's on at 1 p.m.
Houston Matters wants to hear from you about story or guest ideas for future programs, or pet care or gardening questions you'd like us to tackle when those subjects come up each month on the show. Or maybe you have suggestions for how we can improve the program and provide a better public service. Reach out anytime at talk@houstonmatters.org. I'm Craig Cohen. Join us for the next Houston Matters, weekday mornings at 9 here on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Chariot Energy, offering electricity plans backed by 100% renewable energy for Texas homes and businesses. Learn more about renewable energy options at chariotenergy.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Charlie Mechling.
Access to maternal health care can depend on where you live, and for many families in rural Texas, getting prenatal care or delivering a baby means traveling long distances. A new investigation from Public Health Watch looks at the growing number of maternal health care deserts across the state and the impact they're having on pregnant women and their families. I spoke with Sandy West, the reporter behind the story, and here is that conversation. Hello, Sandy. Thank you for joining us. I guess the first place to start, just so everyone knows what we're talking about or who we're talking to, what is Public Health Watch?
Public Health Watch is a Texas-based outlet that covers all manner of issues that deal with public health. They report on environmental issues, medical issues, all over the state and all over the country.
And so the one you're focused on right now and why you're here is to talk about what we're seeing happening for pregnant Texans all across the state, especially those in rural areas, by having a lack of coverage. Explain.
So I was asked to write some stories about East Texas, and one issue in particular that women across the state of Texas are dealing with is the lack of access to appropriate maternal health care. There are maternal health care deserts in West Texas that are significant. What I found in East Texas is that there are women that are having to drive more than an hour each way to access basic obstetrics care throughout their pregnancies, for labor and delivery, postpartum care, and pediatric care once they have their children.
Before we get into the specifics of this particular case, a lot of people may feel familiar with this story when it was tied to abortion control in the state and the outlaw of that, and people having to drive to go across borders to find the kind of care they needed. Is that part of what the problem is now, or is this a whole different issue?
So this is an issue all across the country, not just in states where reproductive care is restricted. It is not specifically tied to reproductive laws. The issue of rural hospitals shutting down, hospitals that are closing their maternal health care and labor and delivery units is not specifically related to issues of reproductive care. No, this is mostly an economic driven story.
So then let's dive into this now. And the point that you would think it's probably one of the most natural things is for women to have children and us to have support in our communities for them to do that. And no matter what we cut back on or change or move away from, this process continues to happen. So how come we don't have the services needed? It's not as though we don't have the need for it.
This has been a trend that's been going on for quite a long time. Again, going back to rural hospital closure, it's the economics. Most of our healthcare system is a profit-driven model. And in rural communities where you have fewer residents, you're obviously going to have fewer patients. A lot of times in rural communities, you have people that are underinsured or on Medicaid or have no insurance. So there's ability to pay issues and reimbursement issues that go along with that. Labor and delivery units, I was told by experts, are not seen as a place in a hospital or a healthcare facility that is a revenue generation facility. And it's very expensive to run them. It's not just, oh, well, let's go hire an obstetrician and we'll, set up our labor and delivery unit, because there's a lot of infrastructure that goes along with that. You have to have an anesthesiologist and appropriately trained medical staff to support the labor and delivery. And what I was also told is that the medication that you have to keep on hand is extraordinarily expensive. So you take all those things combined, where you have a hospital that doesn't have a ton of patients. I mean, has a significant number for the percentage in their community, but not for overall. You have a very specialized need that is very expensive to operate. It just makes it extremely difficult for these rural hospitals that are already struggling financially to divert those resources into this particular area.
There will probably be those who don't know as much in this arena as you're talking about who will say, but what about the old country doctor who comes to your house and helps you deliver your baby? So as long as there's a doctor in town, you're fine. Why isn't that true?
Yeah. So there should never be any question that family medical doctors who can provide maternal health care throughout the course of a pregnancy and prenatal care are extraordinarily important and are still doing the work that they've been doing for a long time. But a pregnancy, as one of the women who graciously shared their stories with me said, a pregnancy is not linear and things can go sideways at any given moment. So if you have an urgent medical need, as a lot of the women that I spoke with did, it's not as simple as going to their local hospital where, there is an emergency room and there is medical staff, but they don't have all of the equipment and medication and staff to deliver or to deal with that emergent complication in the pregnancy.
And I guess also for folks to understand, we're not just talking about the moment of birth. There's the prenatal care and postnatal care that there's also lacking by not having these services.
Yes, sir. That is absolutely correct. Having prenatal care, appropriate prenatal care for all women, gives doctors the ability to work with women on their own health issues that might create problems down the road. So, for example, somebody who has high blood pressure or anemia, they can begin to address those issues early on and then manage them throughout the course of the pregnancy. There are the issues that arise during pregnancy, but the reality is postpartum care is extremely important. According to the CDC, the more women die after delivery over the course of months than they do in pregnancy itself. Infection, again, heart issues, mental health issues. Postpartum depression is a real thing. There are a lot of things that happen to a woman's body during pregnancy. And if they don't have access to the appropriate care as their body has just gone through a pregnancy, they can be at significant risk for trouble.
We are speaking with Sandy West from Public Health Watch, where she's reported on the growing crisis behind the disappearance of maternity services for women across the state of Texas, but especially in rural communities. An interesting statistic that I've seen here is that more than 70% of Texas rural communities lack either a hospital or labor and delivery service. Could that be accurate?
Yes, we were lucky enough to get some data, and my editor went through it. And yes, unfortunately, that is true. There had been, as I understand it, a little bit of a slowdown in the closure of rural hospitals. I mean, it was still happening at a kind of alarming pace, but it hadn't been quite as bad as it was before. But there are a significant number of hospitals in Texas that are still at risk for closure, and a significant number of hospitals that are at risk of losing their maternal health care and labor and delivery services as well.
How much of this is a government funding cutback issue, and how much of it is just the pure economics of trying to do this?
So I walked away from this story understanding that it was a both. These hospitals, for example, Sabine County is where I focus most of my reporting. And I was so lucky that the people at Sabine County Hospital allowed me to come out and see what they were doing. That hospital is owned by the hospital district out there. So they have some ability to deal with tax revenue for their hospital, but they can't cover like new purchases for equipment without grant funding from the government or wherever. you have a lot of hospitals, rural hospitals, that have been purchased by hospital systems. And if they're not making enough money, then they could be pulling down the whole system. There are programs in place at the state and at the federal level to help rural hospitals. There are some concerns that even with boosts to funding put forward in the One Big Beautiful Bill, that some of those could be offset by cuts to Medicaid, the loss of insurance coverage through the ACA. But I will say that the people I talked to in Sabine County said that it is definitely a money problem, but any kind of funding or any kind of program that comes from government sources has to be something that's considered in the long term and not just a one-off. To just throw money for 1 year at a problem doesn't solve the problem for them. They do need help. They do definitely need help, grant funding and support services, but it has to be well thought out.
You also mentioned insurance and all of that, and I'm mostly ignorant to how all of that would work and does fund in. And I'm curious, though, is that a problem in the equation? How insurance is funding things, what they're okaying, what they're approving, what they put through, oftentimes what they cover. It may seem high at our side, but it doesn't cover the cost of actually doing the procedures and such. What are you finding insurance's role in this?
So I have to be honest, I didn't deal too much with insurance reimbursement. That was something that got brought up in the course of conversations, but that wasn't something that we dove as deeply into as would probably be appropriate for a follow-up story or a different focused story.
Let me focus back on what we started with, talking about the distance that folks have to travel and your concerns, what you found, and in talking with the people, because what's beautiful about your story, it's not just the academics or the theorists talking. You're talking to people who actually are experiencing and have had issues with this. The long drives means what to these folks?
It's exhausting. When I went out there, I stayed in Nacogdoches, and I was driving back and forth to Sabine County. There are no 4-lane highways. They're all county or state highways. The county judge, for example, told me that there's no traffic lights except for some blinking red lights. It's hilly. So for people, a lot of the women I talked to would talk about, if I have to drive, if I have an appointment at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I have to take a whole day off work. My husband or my partner might not be able to take the time off to go with me to those appointments. All women who have been pregnant know you start off with maybe one appointment every couple of weeks or every month. It gets more and more and more as the closer you get to your due date. If you have to go in just for minor testing, and it's like 10-minute appointment, you're driving an hour to an hour and a half to get there, which the longer you go in your pregnancy, the more uncomfortable physically you're going to be. You may have had to arrange childcare. You've had your time off work. Those are financial hits. It's exhausting if the appointment gets canceled, and you don't find out until you get there because the doctor had to go in and deliver a baby. Like, that's 2.5, 3 hours out of your day that is, nothing has happened. So it's very tiring just throughout the pregnancy. And you can imagine it's not even just, I went into labor, I have to drive for an hour and a half to get someplace. If you have a complication, as one woman did, where she had just gotten home from an appointment and 30 minutes later started bleeding, and then had to turn around and make arrangements for her child and rush back the hour and a half. It's scary and it's dangerous. It's exhausting. It's not great.
You kind of hit on this, but I wanted to go there too. The emotional toll. We talk about the distance, the amount of money, because you're talking about all these things that cost. Talk about the emotional toll it has on these women.
When I was making those drives, I was trying to imagine, I was thinking back to my first pregnancy, and I had some right at delivery complications, and I live 10 minutes away from the hospital. And I was thinking all the times I was driving back and forth, like what that has to be to know that something doesn't feel right and you're, making that drive, it's scary, and it's scary to live with that fear. It's stressful. One of the women I talked to had high blood pressure, and her doctor tried to find ways to help monitor from home so she wouldn't have to make those drives. But the belt that they gave her to monitor the baby from home wouldn't work because the position her baby was in, which caused her extra stress and exacerbated her already high blood pressure. So there's fear. It's just not a great situation.
We look at this and think about how we have things in the situation we're facing, and that it's these distances, and therefore, you can't have everything everywhere, and so some people have to deal with this. But you look globally at this problem, and we are not the only place that has rural communities. Are there places where you've seen or understand that have figured this out better than we're doing? And if so, what are the practical solutions?
I don't know. I didn't look into that, but I will say one of the doctors, several of the doctors I talked to, this is very much their focus, trying to find ways to extend care to women in rural communities. And what they repeatedly said to me is it's a mindset that after I wrote this story, I had people say well, why do they live out there? Why don't they go where there's more care? And I said, let me repeat back to you the question that was asked of me. Why is that the framing? Why is the framing not, why aren't we making sure that there is health care for all Americans, no matter where they live, if they live in a rural community? Why should people in a rural community not have access to the same health care that I do here in Houston? Mm-hmm. I don't know that I know the answer. I just know that the doctors and the people I talked to said, it's just, if you have a mindset that you're going to provide health care for your community, it should be for your entire community.
We started this conversation talking about how this is one of those things that happens very often, people getting pregnant and having children. Mm-hmm. It is, quote unquote, a way of life for us. Why, though, then, is it seen as a secondary worry? Is it seen as, by the health authorities that are out there, if it's not making money, we're not funding it? Why isn't it given a more important position? What are the answers you hear?
It's just the system that we have set up is profit driven. And one of the doctors I talked to had said, all industries, that's just how our country is wired, is that we look at this the same way that we look at other kinds of issues, utilities, or, whatever. It's a profit driven system. And if it's profit driven, then by necessity, almost, when it comes to healthcare, there have to be choices about whether you're providing care that might be a little bit expensive, doesn't get used as much. If you have to be willing to maybe not make money on that one thing to provide it. And it just seems unfortunate that is not how we view things.
Sandy, as we wrap this up, give me a positive story of a local angel you encountered that's out there doing the work of the Lord, if you want to put it that way.
So let me tell you about Kaylee McDaniel, who is the administrator at the Sabine County Hospital. She is a Sabine County native, as are most of the medical staff that work at that hospital. And she is absolutely determined to find ways to be able to provide basic maternal health care, prenatal, during pregnancy, and postpartum care. She's applying for grants to get new equipment. She's bringing back home a young man who just graduated from his residency at Texas A&M with a focus on rural health care, who got training on doing maternal health care. some basic maternal health care. So he's going to come back and be able to provide some of those services. She is absolutely determined that the women in her community, as she said it, get the kind of care that they deserve. She's just a spark.
Yeah.
She really wants to make things better for her community.
Well, Sandy, continue shining the light in those dark corners to learn all we can, especially over at Public Health Watch, where you do that work as an investigative journalist. Thank you very much, Sandy, for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
My conversation with Sandy West with Public Health Watch. You can read her full report at publichealthwatch.org. Coming up, a new immersive community-driven art residency. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Decades ago.
It's been a long time.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of water under the bridge.
Play it once, Sam. For all time's sake.
The French and Moroccan football teams have met 6 times before. Morocco won once in the 90s. They mustered a tie in 2007. They will meet again at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts this afternoon in a rematch of their 2022 World Cup semifinal in Qatar. That match still looms large. Morocco arrived in that game as the first African nation ever to reach a World Cup semifinal, having gone the entire tournament without conceding a goal from open play. That quickly ended, and France ended that run with a convincing 2-0 win before going on to face Argentina in the final. 4 years later, the stakes are similar. France breezed through early cup competition, but had to grind their way past Paraguay to get into the quarterfinals. Morocco, meanwhile, seems to have graduated from tournament darling to a squad with expectations from fans and themselves. For Morocco, this is a chance at something more than revenge. They get another chance to slay one of the giants of international football. For France, it's another test of whether they can find their best form when it matters most. I'm Jimmy Moss.
Support for soccer tournament coverage comes from Vamos Verde. You can listen to our special World Cup episodes throughout the tournament, wherever you get podcasts.
Support for this soccer update comes from Karbach Brewing, makers of Hopadillo IPA, hosting summer soccer at Karbach, featuring live matches on a 14-foot LED screen along with internationally inspired food and drink offerings.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Charlie Mechling.
Beginning today, Houston area arts service organization Fresh Arts is launching a new residency from local photographer Violeta, or V. Alvarez, called Casa de Cultura, the Living Archive. Inspired by Alvarez's mother's journey from Mexico to the U.S., in addition to the stories of several other immigrant families, the residency explores cultural identity, migration, and collective memory, while also honoring the resilience of communities native to Mesoamerica through photography, cultural objects, and symbolic imagery. To tell us more about her residency, please welcome Houston-based photographer V. Alvarez. V, welcome to Houston.
Hi, thank you
welcome
so much
to Hello
for having
Houston.
me.
It's great to have you. I guess the place to start, and then we'll get into it a little more, is as we see the news that's happening in our community.
Right.
How do you think your work, this exhibit, this residency, has a more current, unique, different approach than maybe when you first envisioned it?
Well, when I first envisioned it, it was always about honoring not just my mother, but the people who came here for a better life, their journey here. And to really humanize our community. And, I'm first generation. So the exhibit, the first one, is the music photography, but there's also like a story behind it, My mother, didn't want me to clean houses. She wanted me to pursue my dreams. And being a first, generation, we have that privilege that like our parents don't have, and people that come here because they're seen as people that don't have dreams, or they're just kind of like not seen. They're not seen, and they're just not, they're kind of walk through life like invisible and not seen with hopes and dreams, and they came here, like my mom left Mexico because of a violent marriage, and she had to escape it. And that was like in the 60s,
Wow.
And so also coming here to the States, many families don't get to see their families for decades, but they create a life here. And I think that, what's happening right now in our community with the death of Lorenzo, he has too lived, he worked hard and lived quietly like many of our parents do, and people that immigrate here, and with my goal for this residency is really to humanize our community. And
it's interesting, all too often we think of art as something, a lot of people do, as something you look at and you're impressed by the beauty or the style or the composition of it all. And I think just from hearing you talk, it reminds us of the emotion behind art and the expression that you are trying to share and convey, as well as understanding and teaching a community, not just to look at a picture you've given us, but to understand the story behind it.
Exactly. I didn't grow up like, I was seen as the help or the help's daughter, I wasn't supposed to like accomplish anything, but my mom really pushed it, and my godmother did too. My mom was, their nanny and housekeeper for many years and years, and they kind of took us in as their own, and we moved from different families, and some were nice and some weren't, but my mom is so resilient. She's so independent, and she was just like a model of who I aspire to be.
Yeah.
And so this residency, we have a community altar that we created, and so that was part of the project proposal, and so anybody can come in and leave a copy of their loved ones who've been affected by the immigration policies, and or a loved one, that has recently passed. They can leave a photograph if they like. So.
Speaking of what's happening on there, I'm looking at the different days that are happening, and I wonder if you could just go into explaining to me what does a live photo session look like. That seems super interesting.
Yeah. So what my goal was, to, I wanted to do these live photo sessions, and so I'm inviting the community to come out to be part of the photo projects that I'm creating, and so it's like me photographing live, like in real time, and the images are becoming part of an archive, and so people can come through and experience that and watch it become, it's and then plus the people that I'm photographing, they can experience that being documented and being part of that archive.
Charlie and I were talking a little bit before you came in about photography and photographers, and I probably a terrible characterization I have in my mind is it's traditionally a male field. I think a lot of and I'm curious for you, who were the photographers you looked up to? Who told you I can do this too?
Growing up, there wasn't much cultural representation. There wasn't women of color, and so that was really hard to find, because when I was growing up, there wasn't social media, so it wasn't easy to find something like that. I knew as a kid that I already I loved music. I knew I wanted to do it. So really, like Annie Leibovitz was one, because I looked at Rolling Stone, right. And so, and later I found Linda McCartney, and so, and then, that's why I wanted to do the panel talk on Latino women photographers and bring in some young photographers that are really pushing through, and they're really inspiring the community. And I think that would be a really amazing. It's Latina music photographers. That's next Thursday. We're going to have, and how to become a music photographer, and also like talk about how we all started as music photographers and inspire like the next generation, and really bringing in some young women to really push through it, because it is very male dominating. Yeah. Well, especially like 30 years ago when I was just starting out, so.
I'm curious also, when you talk about current social media and people's availability, do you think having these phones in our hands where we can click a picture of anything is helping the art form or hurts the art form? Does it change people's understanding of the composition of a photo? Does it change how they interpret true artistic work?
I think that, well, let's see. I think it's, I think it motivates someone to be creative, even if it's with a phone, camera gear is expensive, and some people just have a phone. And, I know when I, was photographing, and I just had like a lens that wasn't that expensive, but I remember being in the pit, and of course the male is like criticizing me for like the kind of gear, I had or whatever, just starting out. So, I don't criticize people trying to use a phone or using it as a tool, because it may be all they have. And
it's a great equalizer in being able to capture your family story. Now
we have
so many images of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I grew up, when I was growing up, I liked photography, but, getting the stuff developed and paying for all the film is expensive for a 20-year-old to get into. And now I watch my kids, and they can take pictures, they can take selfies, they can take pictures.
And encourages creativity.
Yeah, which I don't know that they would have gotten into if it were that prohibitive.
Same thing with video, like I went to like 1 year of film school, you know what I mean? But like being able to do it on my phone and doing reels and stuff, I feel like it's less intimidating, and I feel like it creates and I think it inspires like creativity in everyone in some form.
Talk to me a little bit more about the residency and explaining to folks the significance and importance of capturing our stories and remembering our stories.
I'm so thankful to Fresh Arts for giving me the platform to be able to do this. So grateful to them. And they're allowing me just to, like, bring my voice into the space. I hope you guys come, by the way, like to the opening. So, but creating it, the whole process of it has been like a whole journey. It's been emotional, and then kind of looking back at my career, I like emailed Raynald Jamel because I worked at his record label Justice, and I thanked him for all the opportunities and how I worked my way into like becoming a photographer, because I was an intern, I think, at 18 or 19 years old, and then I worked my way up, but yeah, Fresh Arts has really given me the platform to really be able to express myself in the space. And I think it's so vital and so important that, they give an opportunity for many artists to be able to do this.
Well, it's a massive undertaking, a lot of different moving parts.
Yes.
Violeta Alvarez is a Houston-based photographer. V, thank you for coming in
Thank
today.
you so much for having me.
Casa de Cultura, the Living Archive, is open to the public now through August 22nd. Please visit fresharts.org to see all of the moving parts of this amazing exhibit. Coming up, we'll continue to discuss today's top headlines, and we'll also share our current obsessions, and we want to share yours too. So start sending them in now. Either text at 713-440-8870 or email talk@hellohouston.org. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston, this is the moment to give. Just $650,000 remain to reach Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund goal. That's 15% left. Help keep Houston informed. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Good afternoon, Tom Carter, and we could see a afternoon thunderstorm, about a 30% chance of rain. Hot today, the high 95, currently 89. Your NPR station, KUHF. Houston. News 88.7, the service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, a diverse crowd gathered Wednesday evening with a sense of anger mixed with grief for a vigil honoring Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, who was fatally shot by an ICE agent. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Charlie Mechling. Gun violence is trending downward in Harris County, but this recent ICE-related shooting has shifted the conversation to transparency, accountability, and the role local prosecutors play when federal law enforcement is involved. Harris County DA Sean Teare joins us.
Plus, it's Thursday, which could mean only one thing. It's time for us all to share our latest current obsessions, and we want to hear from you. Start emailing them to us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Or call or text them to us at 713-440-8870.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Iranian state media report that the Iranian military worked to secure the skies over the city where the supreme leader was to be buried today in Mashhad. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed on the first day of the U.S.-Israel war with Iran. His funeral began last weekend. Meanwhile, the U.S. and Iran traded strikes for a second day. Iranian officials say at least 14 people were killed. NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi has more.
Iran's semi-official media agency Tasnim said that army fighter jets are flying overhead to protect the skies of Mashhad. That's the birthplace of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and where he will be buried. His funeral began in Tehran almost a week ago and spanned 5 cities, including holy sites in Iraq. On Wednesday, U.S. CENTCOM said it struck Iranian radars and a naval installation in retaliation for Iranian strikes on ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran responded by targeting U.S. military bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, and the Jordanian armed forces said it intercepted missiles launched from Iran towards Jordanian territory. At the NATO summit this week, President Trump declared the ceasefire over, but did not rule out talks to end the war. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Istanbul.
Democrats are searching for a new Senate nominee in Maine, one of their best shots at flipping a seat and winning back the U.S. Senate in the midterm elections. In a video, Graham Plattner dropped out after a woman accused him of rape, which he denies.
We're not doing it because of the allegations. We're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away from us by those in power.
Meanwhile, Trump predicts Democratic leaders will have a hard time replacing Plattner. Florida's Palm Beach International Airport has been renamed for President Trump. NPR's Rachel Treisman reports.
Trump is the first president to have an airport named after him while in office. He's also the first to file trademark applications for the name, and that's raised questions about whether he could profit from it. The Trump Organization says it will not make any money from merchandise sold at the airport, but experts like trademark lawyer Josh Gerben see a possible loophole.
Trump Org could take these trademarks and license them to third parties to use as well. This could be other merchandise that's sold off of airport premises.
An airport spokesperson told NPR it does not currently have plans to sell branded merchandise or know of other vendors who do. Rachel Treisman, NPR News.
In a few weeks, Britain gets its 7th prime minister in 10 years, likely to be Former Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham. Here's NPR's Fatima Al-Kassab.
The popular former mayor of Manchester, nicknamed the King of the North, confirmed he has submitted his nomination to lead the UK's governing Labour Party and become the next Prime Minister, writing on social media that it's all starting to feel very real. Burnham now looks all but set to reside in 10 Downing Street in less than 2 weeks, replacing Keir Starmer, who resigned last month amid historically low poll ratings. Fatima Al-Kassab, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gail DeLauder. Family members and immigrant rights groups are disputing ICE's account of why agents shot an undocumented immigrant. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was shot and killed in the East End Tuesday morning. ICE claims he was shot in self-defense during a targeted enforcement effort. Roberto Del Toro was one of the people at a vigil last night.
We're so used to it happening somewhere else, in another state, another city. But now, look, it's here in our own backyard. So it's always been a problem, but now we have to, take action.
Councilmember Joaquin Martinez represents parts of the East End. He told Houston Matters people are frustrated.
I've also have sent a letter, and some of my colleagues on council have joined in on signing to request DHS to allow HPD and other local entities to support these efforts in an independent investigation.
As of right now, the FBI is the only authority conducting an investigation. The application period for Houston's public housing wait list is now closed. Housing Alliance HTX has been taking applications. News 88.7 Sonia Kinyua looks at what's next.
The waitlist application for 8 public housing properties in Houston had roughly 56,000 applicants. The Alliance expects approximately 10,000 of those applicants to be added to the waitlists. Davita Thomas, a pre-admission manager at Housing Alliance HTX, says each property will have a separate lottery.
So what we're going to do is within the next 2 weeks, go ahead and do the process of the lottery system so that by the last week in July, we're able to go ahead and notify everyone of their results, whether they made it on the wait list or not.
Housing Alliance HTX says assistance is still available at its office, and a dedicated public housing waitlist customer service line will remain open through July 10th. I'm Sonia Kinua, News 88.7.
We're expecting a 30% chance of rain this afternoon. High should be around 95 degrees. Tonight's low near 79 degrees. I'm Gail DeLauder, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, with Snapshot, a program that monitors how and how much a person drives. Snapshot offers personalized rates based on their driving habits at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse.
And not just Ernie Manouse. Sitting in the guest chair with me today is Charlie Mechling, who is, I don't know, do you get tired of people saying you may know him from Straight No Chaser?
No, I'm extremely proud of Straight No Chaser. It was 25 years of my life.
And just to fill people in on it too, the story of Straight No Chaser is kind of fascinating. You guys were an a cappella group at school.
At Indiana University, yep.
And then it all kind of gone on your own way.
Yeah.
And a video talking about the impact of social media, a video got out.
Yeah, on a new platform called YouTube. It was new. We had just put it on there. One of the guys found it on an old beta tape.
It was the 12 Days of Christmas.
12 Days of Christmas. Transferred that, got it digitized, and put it up there to show our families and stuff. And then by the end of that month, December of 2007, it was the most watched video of 2007 with like 7 million views, which is nothing now.
Today.
But yeah, we got a call from the CEO of Atlantic Records on New Year's Day one of the guys got a call and he said, "Are you guys still together?" And he lied and said, "Yeah, we are. We can do that." So 2 months later, we were signed and spent 15 years on the road with them. They still are out touring.
Yeah.
But I'm
led to a few PBS specials.
A few PBS specials.
And so we thank you from the public media arm of the world here for helping to raise funds for PBS stations across the country.
Oh, those were always so much fun to do. We loved coming in here.
And also seeing you guys in concert was always fun, too.
Yeah.
Do you miss not doing it now?
I have to say I don't, and that is not a bad thing. I feel like I got everything out of it that I wanted, and then I got to a point and I was like, yeah, I'm happy.
In your home, do you play the 12 Days of Christmas, your guys' version?
No, but Spotify or Pandora usually
does it for
finds
you?
a way.
How much fun? Do your kids realize do your kids realize who you are?
They don't think that it's cool in any way. They don't. I've got two gold records in the house, and they're like, yeah, those are Dad's.
Ah, well,
it's good. It's humbling.
It is. It keeps you the guy you are today. But also you have your wife, as we were saying earlier, actress from a very artistic family, a very active arts family in our community. And I'm curious, do you see it in your children? Does it transfer?
Definitely. Well, my older one likes making music. He does his electronic stuff, and he's got all his buttons and stuff like that. And so he's really into that side of it, the making music. The younger one, he wants to be a performer. He wants to audition for Christmas Carol this year. And
well, we heard him audition on the show today when he called in as the youngest caller I think we've ever had on the show.
He's not shy.
Yes, I can see that. And I'm just going back to the idea of walking through your house and out of the corner of your eye you see two gold records that are yours. That must be kind of still a thrill, though.
I love it. I love it.
do?
And I tried to put them tucked away in the office. My wife put them a little more prominently.
Yeah.
But, they're not out front.
They're not out front. Well, you should move them out front. I'd be wearing one on a chain around my neck everywhere I went. Well, Charlie, thank you for taking the time to join us today and to step into something that isn't your usual job and co-hosting this show with me. And we've got a very full hour still to come. Of course, it's Thursday, so we're going to want to know your current obsessions. You'll be sharing yours?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You got a good one. I don't know what it is. We've kept he knows what mine is, but I've kept his secret. So I'll find that out in a little bit. But we want to know yours, too. So email them to us, talk@hellohouston.org, or you can also text them to us at 713-440-8870. Or what I much prefer, when we get to that segment, call in and talk to us about them. I'd love to learn more, and I'd love to chat with you all about what these are that are taking over every aspect of your life. We also are very honored to have joining us the Harris County District Attorney, Sean Teare, will be here. He had originally agreed to come on the show to talk about a gun violence program he's very active in. And then, as we know, with what's happened with ICE in our community, it has changed the narrative a bit of what we're talking about as a community. So he'll be here to talk with us and also take your calls and questions at 713-440-8870. But right now, as always, we start the show each hour with the headlines of the day. Charlie, take us away.
A diverse crowd gathered Wednesday evening with a sense of anger mixed with grief for a vigil honoring Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, who was fatally shot by an ICE agent, where they demanded justice and that the agency leave the city. Hundreds of people flooded the residential street where the 52-year-old was shot by an Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent a day before during an unspecified targeted enforcement operation in the predominantly Latino neighborhood in the city's east side. The crowd rallied around speakers, which included several U.S. representatives from the Houston area, as well as residents and advocates, gripping signs that called for ICE to leave the state, some with Salgado Araujo's face. A candlelight vigil was also held at a newly crafted mural not far from where Salgado Araujo was shot on Canal Street. People left candles, stuffed animals, notes, and more as they paid their respects to Salgado Araujo, who had lived in Houston for 35 years. The peaceful gathering drew a heavy police presence that took up most of the parking on the block. What are your thoughts? Did you attend one of the vigils last night? Call or text 713-440-8870.
We always take a break at the top of the hour of the show, and we get our little bathroom breaks in there and such. And I was walking by the TVs, and I think folks are gathered there again right now as we're on the air, still at this event and looking at it. Very difficult time, very difficult for our community. But I'm curious, have you used this grief, this pain? Have you gone out and stood at one of these vigils? Does that help you process the healing? Is it something that brings you, in a sense, pride in your community to see folks coming together for something like this? I don't know. I guess back there was the shooting of that club in Florida back around Pride a few years to the Pulse nightclub. And I went to a vigil for that in front of City Hall when that happened. But I don't know that I go to many of those kind of gatherings for events like that. Is that something you've been moved to do?
I will say, especially my wife is very active with that sort of thing. It does take, in this political climate, it does take a bit of bravery to do that. I know that I feel nervous with my kids. I want to show them that we can go to these things and support what we believe in, but it's also, there is that in the back of my mind. What if something happens? What if what if a car tries to drive through? Those sorts of things. So it does take a lot of bravery to even go to do these things and support them. So we've gone both ways with that.
Yeah. It saddens me when you say that, because I think of peaceful assembly as one of those rights that's built into who we are as Americans. And to think that there's fear that goes with it today, to think that there's worry, that it's just not who we should be and who we are. But I'm happy to know that what took place last night, that those were peaceful gatherings, and that we continue to gather and show peacefully our concern or outrage or anger at a situation. As I mentioned a moment ago, Sean Teare will be with us in just a little bit. We can ask him about what's happening on that level in understanding the events that happened here in our community and getting answers that we need. But it is a right we have to peacefully gather and to recognize these events and to bring attention to them. I will say in this entire story, I'm disappointed in the national coverage of it. I expected to see more. I've seen very little national coverage. Somebody said to me in a slightly cynical way, there's no footage of the actual incident. There's footage leading up to it. There's aftermath of it, but the actual encounter isn't filmed, isn't available currently. And that's why national news isn't covering it. And that angers me too.
Yeah.
It's that how come it doesn't become a story unless we have the right visual to go with it?
If there's no clickbait, it's not worth putting on the
sharing it. You know, that's bothersome to me too, because I think this is an extremely important story. And we've spent a lot of time. We spent a good deal of yesterday's show. We'll spend a good deal of this hour talking about it. And I think it needs to be talked about. And we need to remember these things when they happen. I think in today's political environment and social environment, so much comes at us so quickly that the story keeps changing. And the things that we need to take a moment to pause and understand get swept away much too quickly.
And as a Houstonian, when I heard about it, there was an element that I was surprised that it was here. Mm-hmm. I've seen it. You see it in other cities, and it doesn't feel as close to home. And it was surprising for me because I kind of felt like not Houston.
How do you process it with your kids? What do you say to them about this? Are they aware?
I would say right now they're not aware. Maybe if it were still in the school.
Because it's summer break, so that
it's summer, so their bubble is a lot smaller. But it's also one of those things that it's hard to talk about them about, talk with them about. Those are the times when we have gone to some of those demonstrations and stuff like that. And then I feel like that's the time to talk, because we're saying this is a bad thing that happened, and look at all these other people that agree and want this to not happen again. Because it's already scary.
I want to remind folks we're interested in your thoughts, feelings, reactions to what we're talking about. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. We were talking a little bit ago in the first hour about what's available online now. And I can't help but think, as a parent, you want to, I don't know, shelter isn't the right word, but you want to be in control of guiding your children through these kind of situations. And the new challenges things like social media give to you as a parent in knowing what they're exposed to, when they're exposed to it, how they understand it, what your responsibility is as a parent.
I mean, it's one of those things that just like when they go out into the world, you hope that the conversations you've had up to this point will at least guide them. We are honest with them. If they have a question, we answer it honestly. We talk to them like they're adults, and then we hope that as they go out into the world, they make the right decisions. They, all those things. So that also falls on social media, because I can't control everything that my kids see.
Right.
And I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's not my job. My job isn't to control. My job is to give them the tools to decide that's something I want to do or watch or share, and that's not. So that's where we stand.
Yeah. With this conversation, I don't want to mean to take the emphasis away from what happened and who was affected and the community outcry. It's just the conversation led me to that area, but I do want to get back to the fact that peaceful gathering is important, and we want to hear from you. 713-440-8870. Bertie from Montrose is on the line. Bertie, what's on your mind?
Yes, I have just really been struck by this. I grew up in Magnolia Park as a child, very familiar with the area. My stepfather was taken and held in ICE detention under the Obama administration, and I'm really struck at the lack of an adequate response by our community leaders, by our politicians, and as you were just mentioning, as not having enough national attention on this. And it just feels like something has to give at this point, because this has just been happening not just under the Trump administration, but historically to our community.
Yeah. Bertie, have you gone to any of the vigils? Would you go to something like that? And if so, would that help with, I don't know if healing's the right word, but a place to release emotion?
I think I'm past that. I have held so much grief and sadness that I cannot do that anymore. I need something more for this. Like there's a reckoning coming if we do not adequately address these things, whether that's here as a city, as a state, or as a country.
Mm-hmm. Bertie, thank you for calling in and sharing your opinion and your thoughts with us. I truly appreciate it, and I'm sorry for the pain you've been feeling, and we're with you, united on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're also interested in what you think, how you feel. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. You can also text us or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. We're going to wrap this up quickly right now, and then coming in, the Harris County DA is here with us, Sean Teare. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
You can hear The Daily. It's on tonight at 7.
More to watch, more to discover, more to learn. HPM Plus streams the best of PBS and Houston Public Media. Kids, drama, science, local, all in one free app. Go live with channels like TV8, Create, PBS Kids, NHK World, and more, streaming around the clock. And PBS members get full access to past seasons with Passport. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs. It's all waiting for you.
On HPM
Trusted
Plus.
local resources don't happen by accident. It happens because listeners like you step up. Help Houston Public Media not only meet but exceed our Resiliency Fund goal. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
HPM Plus brings you the latest news and information from around the world and across the street. Trusted journalists keeping you connected by keeping you informed. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs and stay informed.
Support comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research. education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
Support comes from the Houston Museum of Natural Science in Herman Park, featuring exhibits on dinosaurs, butterflies, stars, and ancient cultures, along with the Burke Baker Planetarium and Cockerel Butterfly Center. More at hmns.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Charlie Mechling.
On today's show, we had invited the district attorney in to talk about gun crime in Harris County and its decline by 11% in 2025 and efforts that are underway to continue to address the public outcry when it comes to gun violence in our community. But as we began this week, by Tuesday, we had heard about the fatal shooting involving an ICE agent during an enforcement operation in Houston's Magnolia Park neighborhood while agents were attempting to arrest Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, who later died from his injuries. And we already had District Attorney Teare booked to be on the program, and he is here with us now. If I understand, this is the first time you're going into an interview since this situation has taken place.
That's right. I'm, as always, happy to be here. I would much rather be talking about what we were set up to talk about, but I think it is very important to talk about what we are going to talk about.
So for a proper introduction, you are the Harris County District Attorney, and that implies you deal with criminal issues that happen within our county.
Correct.
And if you would like to join the conversation, let me put this out here right now as we begin. Our number is 713-440-8870. I guess we have to start with jumping a bit ahead of it all. Have we seen more footage than what has already been released publicly? There seems to be videos out there that show different situations with what's happening and what happened leading up to the actual encounter moment. And the videos stop, or we don't see that. And it makes, from where I sit, wonder, why don't I see the next moments on these tapes? Is there a reason we're not seeing that?
So I think to answer that fully, I've got to kind of walk you through the way that normal investigations like this occur.
Please do.
Yeah. Tragically, we're in the second largest county in the United States. So we have officer-involved shootings, not frequently, but relatively frequently. In those cases, universally, if it is the Houston Police Department, the Harris County Sheriff's Department, the South Houston Police Department, any of the constables, anyone inside of Harris County, the DA's office sends a prosecutor and one of our own investigators there. The Rangers, if it is a fatality, typically send someone as well. We run parallel investigations independent of whatever other law enforcement is actually going to investigate their own agency, right? Mm-hmm. That lends a level of credibility to the ultimate findings. We universally, if it's a fatal shooting, present that case to a grand jury, just to let the public have a say as well as to whether or not the shooting was justified or not. In this case, because I believe it is a federal agency, the DA's office, the Rangers, even Houston Police Department has not been invited to run a parallel investigation. So my short answer is we're not sure yet what all footage exists. We are without the invitation because a person died inside this jurisdiction at the hand of a law enforcement. My office is running an investigation, but we do not have the same level of access that we do in almost any other officer-involved shooting to say that we have everything. I can tell you unequivocally we don't have everything. Mm-hmm. And 2 days after one of these, I personally have been able to look at everything in every other officer-involved shooting. That's not the case here. My investigators have been on the scene. We have talked to individuals. My investigators were at both of the vigils last night, at the marches, just talking to people, finding out if we have eyewitnesses that people haven't seen yet. And we're going to get some semblance of transparency for the public because I think it is incredibly important to do so. But whether or not the federal government and specifically Department of Homeland Security, Office of Inspector General, who is running the investigation of the shooting, shares anything with us is to be determined.
Now, do you feel like, I mean, there's a timeline that for this investigation. Do you feel like there's a time where you need to be invited into this by a certain time before, so that you can effectively do the investigation? Are we getting close to that time? Are we past it?
I mean, we're past it to do the investigation in the way that we have all done these time and again. We're past it by 2 days and a few hours. That being said, we're going to do everything that we can. I have been in communication with the Hennepin County District Attorney's Office, Minneapolis, because no one is more familiar with these kind of situations than them. We're going to continue to lean on them to see how they have navigated this. We've talked to a number of different outside entities, including the FBI, who we have an incredible working relationship with FBI Houston and a lot of our federal partners in just kind of getting a lay of the land. So, yes, this is not the ideal way to go about this, but anytime a community member loses their life at the hands of law enforcement, I think those are the most critical cases to handle properly so that we can retain the trust of the community. We have got to be able to explain to the community in these cases more than any other that we are above board, that we are transparent, that we are going to get to the bottom of it, whether we like the outcome or not.
Talk to me a little bit about the word you used about being invited in. Mm-hmm. Is that something you need or should be invited into, or do you just do it?
So when you're talking about a federal agency, there is that thing called the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution. They have, in most cases, the ability to prevent local law enforcement from participating in a federal investigation. That's never been something that we have butted up against here. But there are avenues around that. And Hennepin County has navigated that as well as I think can possibly be expected. And so it's one of the reasons that we've already leaned on them and will continue to lean on them. There's not an avenue that I am unwilling to go down in order to make sure that this investigation is run properly and that the community as a whole, not just Harris County, not just the state of Texas, but the United States, can know that this shooting was investigated properly and the ultimate outcome is what the law enforcement says it was.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the proper protocol or how this works, so walk me through this. Is this something your office could sue the federal government for access to the investigation? Is it something you can go before a court and say, we have every right to be in this investigation, or is that not how it works?
Any way to force the hand?
Yeah, there are legal avenues.
Are you at that point?
We're not at that point yet.
Okay.
But it would be, I don't think it would be right to wait until we get to that point before I have a bunch of different avenues navigated, ready to go down, regardless of what DHS, OIG, and ICE actually provide.
Representative Gene Wu, has been heard saying, I believe, that people have been told by federal entities, I'm not even sure who exactly, to not turn over, to destroy footage, to either give to them and not have any copies. I don't know, different stories are out there. What have you heard? Is any of this credible that you can speak to?
So the most important thing for me right now is to protect the integrity of the investigation, right? Is to absolutely maintain my impartiality and the ability for me to eventually present this case to somebody. Mm-hmm. And so getting into what we have, what we don't have, what we believe we may be investigating versus what we wouldn't be investigating, I think is going to go down the road where I would be not hurting, but really not helping this investigation at the end. It's the reason that I didn't go to the vigil last night. It's the reason that you didn't see me at the press conference. If you take my personal opinions on this, I would have been right there in both settings. but I've got to, in my professional role, be impartial. And one of those things is not to talk about specifics on what I've heard, what I haven't heard. I think that when you look at what the DHS OIG put out in a tweet, there were some very conclusory statements made that are not the way that I go about prosecuting a case or investigating whether or not a case exists. And so, look, we're going to look at every avenue. And if a state crime was committed, be it a murder, be it a manslaughter, be it tampering with evidence, we are going to investigate it. And if someone committed that crime, you don't get to hide behind a badge. So that was a very long political answer to a very smart question.
To plain speak for folks that are listening, your office is committed to investigating this one way or another, correct?
One way or another, that is absolutely correct. We are going to investigate the fact that a longtime resident of this community was killed at the hands of the police. Whether it's justified or not, we're going to investigate it.
I'm going to circle back to a question I started with, and maybe you can give me an answer here, and if you can't, I understand. I'm talking about this footage we keep seeing and different angles of the van that the deceased was driving. And they all seem to end before the situation happens.
Right.
Do we know if that footage exists? Because even when I see it on the news on other stations, they don't say we're not showing you all the video.
Right.
They're just showing it up to that point. And my concern is if it's a security camera, it's not making a judgment. It was just rolling. Do we know why we don't see the rest of it? Is there a reason behind that, or don't we know?
I personally have not seen everything we've collected. I think it was widely reported that we were back out at the scene yesterday, collecting numerous pieces of surveillance evidence. We do this very well, so we know where to go, who to ask, how to ask. We're meeting again shortly after I leave this interview to go over everything. I can tell you that the fact that those end in the things we've seen publicly is very concerning. I think that's as far as I'm going to go, but I can assure you that if it exists, we're going to find it.
I would say another issue that people are concerned with, and I think it just needs a little clarity so people realize, in the incidents that we saw in Minneapolis, they were at events where people were gathered, and that's why we had access to so much footage.
Right.
Here, this happened pretty much, as well as I can tell, unexpectedly in a morning. Nobody knew this was going to happen, so there wasn't a crowd of people out with their cell phones gauged. And that must add an extra ripple of complication to you trying to rebuild what happened.
There's no question. And I want to hit on this because I want to zoom out for a second and talk about the tactics that ICE has begun utilizing around the country. Beginning with the surges in Chicago, in Minneapolis, we saw such a chilling effect on victims and witnesses reporting crimes and contributing to the prosecution of really violent criminals. The stated goals that this administration had for cutting ICE loose effectively and letting them do these kind of things, of reducing crime, it actively harmed my ability to hold violent criminals accountable. Actively. It had the exact opposite effect because statistically, regardless of what you say, the undocumented population commits crimes at such a lower rate per capita than any other population that we have. We created a solution to something that was not a problem in comparison to any other group of people.
Creating a problem.
Which created a problem of holding people who are actually victimizing our community accountable. That dovetails into the second part of my answer, which is these tactics that we saw somewhat and really extensively in Minneapolis, but also what we saw on Tuesday morning. We had 2 completely unmarked cars full of federal agents not in a uniform. Mm-hmm. Drive a car off the road and get out with large weapons in an area that historically has been prone to aggravated robberies. This is Texas, where we have prided ourselves for hundreds of years of defending yourself and making sure that you can defend your own property. In what world is this individual not allowed to try to escape when absolutely it could appear that that person was being robbed at gunpoint utilizing cars? The fact that they're rolling around in completely unmarked vehicles without lights, without sirens, and without uniforms, and then having the freedom to shoot people that are trying to get away from that, just like you said, in this case, it wasn't the tragic outcome of Renee Good or Alex Peretti, where they were there and they knew that ICE was present. This is an individual driving to work, and he gets run off the road by 2 cars with no insignias, mm-hmm. and a bunch of ununiformed people jump out. I don't. These are not tactics that I've ever seen, and I taught at HPD's Police Academy for 10 years. Some of my best friends are tactical officers that have been so for decades. This isn't the way that they're taught to do this.
I want to remind folks that we are speaking with the Harris County District Attorney, Sean Teare, and that we're welcoming you into the conversation at 713-440-8870. We've got some calls holding, but I want to wait for 1 second and ask you a different question. Then I want to go to the calls, but
Sure.
I want to make sure we don't lose this thread here. I'm curious about the conversations that you can share with us, if you have had, mm-hmm. with federal agencies. And when you became aware of what happened, what is the process that happened after that to bring us to where we are?
So I was made aware while the scene was still very active on Tuesday. I was also made aware that no local law enforcement was invited to participate in the investigation. How
are you made aware of something like that?
The Houston Police Department, their command staff called me, and we collaborated. I've talked during that Tuesday. I'd been on the phone with just about every law enforcement agency kind of in that area. We have had communication because the first information we got was that the FBI was leading the investigation, and I'm perfectly good with that. They're an amazing agency. We were then told that the FBI is only leading the investigation into the assault of a federal officer, mm-hmm. which is a moot point in this case. And then DHS OIG, the Office of Inspector General, is leading the investigation into the shooting. That is the totality of my communications with the feds, for the broad feds.
And not to just get too much in the weeds, but just for my own curiosity, how do they tell you that? Is it a phone call? Is it an email message? Do they say, back off, we got this? How do you hear these kind of things?
So it's phone calls. I keep saying this. I've got a wonderful relationship with the special agent in charge and really the FBI as a whole here. So the phone calls are something that are commonplace, not when we just have crisis. This is just, hey, what's going on? Mm-hmm. So the phone calls that happened Tuesday and Wednesday were generally with the FBI, getting clarity of what we're doing. I have yet to be in touch with DHS OIG. That we don't have the same type of relationship. These are not local investigators. So that's kind of where it is right now. But with the lack of any clarity or insight from them, that was kind of my cue to sit down with my civil rights division and say, guys, we've got to do what we can.
And I don't want to bury the lead of what you said a minute ago, too, that the FBI investigating this as an assault on an officer as opposed to the death of a person in our community.
Right. And the only person theoretically that could be charged with an assault on an officer has been shot and killed. There's not a defendant or a suspect to investigate.
We are talking with Harris County District Attorney Sean Teare. Sean, if you want to put on your headphones.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Some phone calls are here for us. I want to start off with Alvin from the 3rd Ward. Alvin, what's on your mind today?
Okay, well, wonderful interview so far. The DA actually answered a couple of things that I was interested in, which is how do we ensure that from a local perspective, being an elected DA, that we don't have a federal agency running rogue across the rights of citizens and or residents. So you answered that. The next point that I want to make is that what ICE is doing and the tactics that they have are exactly the main concerns that the founders had during the second Constitutional Convention. When states needed to cede power to the federal government, they did not want the federal government to function like a king, essentially what they overthrew. And we have in this particular instance, if you look at Minnesota, and even now, where you have a federal agency that comes in with very questionable tactics, essentially unalives a resident and or citizen of that state, and then are capable of evacuating the body and the evidence. This is a very serious issue. And the thing about it is we have to definitely rectify this because this is unsustainable, where you can have an agency that is known to lie about why they killed someone and then are allowed to essentially sequester the evidence of that killing. It falls into a black box, and we need to figure out some type of way of undoing that. I land.
Alvin, thank you for calling and sharing with us. He brings up some interesting points and a couple of things that stood out to me. Trust in organization. Yeah. And when you lose trust in these organizations, in these agencies, when they then report something like we're seeing in this situation, of course people are going to question it immediately. I made the joke yesterday, when you watch Judge Judy, she says, if you lie to me once, I think everything you're saying is a lie. How do we not react that way to this kind of information?
And I'd also like to add to that, because I was thinking about the same thing. Also, what have you heard from Minneapolis? You said you've been in contact. How do we keep HPD and all of our local enforcement, how do we keep that trust with them and not have it bleed into our own local?
Yeah. Look, I don't know if I could have said anything better than Alvin just did. That is the overarching temperature and attitude that I've seen this week and quite frankly before this week. As I said earlier, the biggest challenge of this is to retain and maintain the trust in our local law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Look, HPD and the Sheriff's Department and all other 84 police agencies that work in Harris County, we're not perfect at all. But I think to a person, the public knows that when they step out of line, when we mess up, we're going to hold ourselves accountable. And we're going to tell people that we messed up. And if it is a criminal act, by God, we're going to go forward with that. That is in no way what this federal government is showing us. From Minneapolis to Chicago, Alvin hit on it. The agents are removed from the jurisdiction. There is no evidence shared with local law enforcement. So I think the model that Hennepin County has really shown us if you've got to go into court, go into federal court and fight to get it. If you've got to do the things that are tough, that's the most important thing, to maintain this trust that we've worked so hard to build. And I know it's not perfect. It's not even close to perfect. But I think we locally have a better grasp on the community than most big cities. and we just got to keep working through it. And this is an opportunity to show that we're not all the same.
Is there federal law or restrictions that blocks against destruction of evidence, or is it just something we don't do? Is there something that can be pointed to legally?
So we can have emergency hearings to have a federal judge order it not to be destroyed.
But there isn't a statute that starts there and that they break that. It's the other way around.
So I having never practiced federal criminal law, I don't know what their correlation to our Brady and to our Michael Morton acts are. Mm-hmm. But there is a discovery process that is required in the federal law world as well.
Quick question I have, then I'm going to go back to the calls. I've heard that the agents involved in this incident have been removed from the state already. Do we know if that's true or not?
Well, first of all, I'd like to know the names of the agents involved. That is not something that's been disclosed to us. Whether or not we disclose it publicly is a different thing, right. But we don't know. So I can't tell you intelligently whether or not that's true. I am currently also very concerned about where the 3 other eyewitnesses that were in the car are. Mm-hmm. That's something that I don't have definitive answers on either. I've seen this ICE administration deport people in an extraordinarily quick manner for things much less hot button than this. So one of my big concerns is ensuring that these 3 eyewitnesses are still available to be interviewed in a reasonable amount of time. I don't know that I can ensure that.
Quickly, I want to move through these calls. I'm sorry, I've been throwing in my questions this whole time. 713-440-8870. John from West University. John, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is we're spending a tremendous amount of time talking about this unbelievable tragedy and tactics used, which is important. But if we don't get to the bottom of what's the process that they stop these people for, why don't we figure out what the process is, and we won't have this kind of issue. And secondly, can you imagine the Hispanic people in the country that hear about this? They probably won't go out in the sunshine. But I thought this was addressed back when. I also heard that there were rewards for the number of people that they brought in. Is that still the case?
John, thank you for calling. Do you know about bounties for agents to bring in?
So I don't know specifics, but I know that even in traffic tickets, quotas are not a good thing. When you're talking about human beings getting arrested, that can never end well. Mm-hmm. In this specific case, we have exhausted our ability nationally and locally and statewide to run this individual through every criminal database we have. From everything we've seen in the 36 years he's been in Harris County, he's not even received a traffic ticket. Mm-hmm. Mm. So to suggest that this was a targeted enforcement going after the worst of the worst, if this is the worst of the worst, then they're not downtown with me every day in the criminal courthouse, because I've got some people if they're interested. Yeah. It's not this person driving to work.
Joni is on the line from Conroe. Joni, what's on your mind?
Hi, yes, thank you for taking my call. Thank you for bringing up that the officers were in unmarked cars and without any identifiable uniform. I also have heard, I don't know if it was in this case, but many times they are masked. So, there's no way for someone in the public, anybody in the public, to know if someone that's pulling them over or running them off the road is actually an officer or gangsters, because it's happened in Galveston recently where people were impersonating officers saying that they were ICE, they were masked, and committed assaults on citizens there. So, I don't know what to think. except that we're being run by, gangsters, it feels like. And I think the media is complicit when they don't bring up every single time this issue is brought up that these are people in unmarked vehicles without any identifying uniform, and sometimes they're masked. Thank you.
Joni, thank you for calling and sharing. I am curious, could a state or city or county regulation be put in place that you cannot be masked when working law enforcement, or would federal regulation supersede that?
It would certainly wind up in the federal courts and go quite a ways up, I would imagine. It can't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, the last time I was here, we were talking about Floyd William Parrott, who we all believe is probably a serial killer and a multiple rapist of women.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he got his hands on most of the women was to have a fake police car and pull women over and then rape and murder them,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have a 17-year-old daughter who I tell, if she's ever being pulled over by even a marked unit, to call 911, put on her flashers, get in the slow lane, and wait until they confirm it's actually a police officer. That's the chief law enforcement officer of Harris County telling his daughter that. When you have unmarked men in no uniforms basically running people off the road at gunpoint, I don't understand how they can foresee anything other than these horrifically tragic outcomes that are happening.
And we had that same comment from Resonate asking if you have the right to protect yourself in a vehicle and there's no marking, there's no identification, do you have that right?
Well, I got to tell you, Lorenzo apparently didn't on Tuesday.
There are some that will say in our social media, I saw a lot of this yesterday after the interviews we did, he did commit a crime. He was here undocumented. Your reaction when you hear that being said?
Well, there are civil removal processes. You become charged with a crime when you get charged with illegal reentry. I certainly don't believe that's a capital offense. And look, should we find a way for safe, effective, fast immigration into this country? Of course we should. Mm-hmm. Of course we should. But that's not what we're talking about here. And I think that's so important. But if we do want to zoom out and talk about this individual, I had the opportunity to meet with a portion of his family yesterday. This is a husband and wife who have been here together for 36 years. They raised not one, not two, but 3 college graduates, one of whom is a public school high school teacher. Mm-hmm. The second one is an engineer from Tufts University in Boston, working in D.C. And the third one is about to graduate from a very prestigious Northeastern school. So what are we talking about here, right? Even if we want to discuss how immigration is terrible and things like that, there's no way that coming into this country without documentation is a capital crime, number one. But we're here to discuss whether or not there was a justified killing of a 36-year community member here. That's it. Mm-hmm. His documentation status should not matter one way or another, just like it doesn't matter in any criminal charge that I file of the 100,000 I file every year.
Yeah. I'm going to try and get Renee in really quickly. Renee, we're very tight on time, so share with us quickly. Renee, you there? Okay, then I'm not going to worry about Renee there.
She did great.
My kind of question.
Yeah. To the community, as we wrap this up,
Mm-hmm.
what should they know from where you sit, what you are doing, where they should find solace in this moment of knowing that they are safe in our community?
I think that the community as a whole should know that their elected district attorney and many, many more of their elected officials locally here care, from the federal side to the state side to those of us that are local. We care. We absolutely hear. the fear in the community, and that from my perspective, I will do every single thing in my considerable power to ensure that there is transparency and accountability for anyone that operates in the law in this community.
Sean Teare, Harris County District Attorney, thank you so much for staying with us extra long today and taking these calls and questions. And I know you'll come back when you can.
Anytime.
And share more information. We're sorry we ran out of time for Current Obsessions. Charlie, thank you for sitting in with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully we can have you another day. And thank you all for listening and joining in on Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Central Market, celebrating Bastille Day with hundreds of French wines and cheeses, charcuterie, fresh baked French butter croissants, madeleines, and